It started with a shop. A small, foreign-owned spaza shop in a township outside Johannesburg. Looted, burned, the owner chased into the street in the middle of the night. By morning, it was not one shop, it was an entire block. The police arrived, the cameras arrived, the politicians issued statements of condemnation. And then, within weeks, everything went quiet again. Until the next time. This has happened in South Africa in 2008, in 2015, in 2019, in 2021, and in 2024. Each time, the same cycle: violence, cameras, condemnation, silence. Over 60 people have been killed in xenophobic attacks since 2008. Hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals have been displaced, looted, and terrorized. And each time, the same question goes unanswered. Why does the most industrialized nation in Africa keep turning on its African neighbors? The answer is not simple, and it is not what the politicians want you to believe. To understand what is happening on those burning streets, you have to go back further than the violence. You have to go back to 1994, the year apartheid ended, the year Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and into the presidency. The world celebrated, Africa celebrated, and millions of people across the continent, from Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Somalia, and beyond, began moving towards South Africa. Not because they were naive, because South Africa was the promise. The most developed infrastructure on the continent, the largest economy, a new democracy built on the idea that Africa belonged to all Africans. The ANC had fought for liberation with the support of frontline states across the continent. Zimbabwe had hosted ANC cadres. Mozambique had sheltered its fighters. Zambia had given it offices. The solidarity was real. The debt was real. And then South Africa forgot. By the late 1990s, something was shifting in the townships. The post-apartheid era came the resentment of foreigners, and someone decided to use it.
Here is the part of this story that most people miss entirely. Xenophobia in South Africa did not erupt spontaneously. It was fed. In communities where local politicians needed to deflect anger away from their own failures, a simple narrative took hold. The foreigners are taking your jobs. The foreigners are taking your houses. The foreigners are running the drugs and the crime. It was not true. Studies by the African Center for Migration and Society found no evidence that migrants caused unemployment among South African nationals. Foreign nationals largely filled roles South Africans were not applying for: informal vending, small retail, certain labor categories. But a lie does not need to be true to be useful. It only needs to be repeated. And it was repeated. By community leaders, by local ward councillors, by national politicians who understood exactly what they were doing. The 2008 attacks were the moment the world saw what the narrative had built. 62 people were killed in weeks of violence across Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. Images of men burned alive circulated globally. The South African government called it criminal, called it not representative of the nation's values. President Thabo Mbeki, a man who had spent years in exile across Africa, sheltered by the same countries now being targeted, struggled to explain it. He never really could, because explaining it honestly would have required admitting what was driving it. Not hatred, not tribalism, not some ancient African rivalry, but a broken social contract, a post-apartheid promise that had not been kept, and a political class more interested in managing that failure than fixing it. There is a man worth knowing in this story. His name is not famous. He does not appear in international newspapers. He is a local ward councillor in a township outside Durban, in a province, in a country where 32% of the population is officially unemployed. He stands at community meetings and he tells his people the foreigners are the problem. He does not believe it entirely, but he knows it works. It redirects the anger. It wins him the meeting. It wins him the vote. And when the violence comes, when a Zimbabwean shop owner loses everything he built in 7 years in one night, that councillor condemns it publicly. Then he does it again at the next meeting. This is not a story about one man. This is the machine.
What makes South Africa's xenophobia so persistent and so different from isolated incidents of prejudice is that it has structural foundations. Unemployment in South Africa is among the world's highest for a middle-income country. Youth unemployment exceeds 60% in some provinces. The township economy, which was already damaged by decades of apartheid spatial planning, was never rebuilt into something that could absorb a growing population. And into those overcrowded, under-resourced communities arrived hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals willing to work longer hours, accept lower margins, and build businesses from nothing. The competition was real. The resentment was understandable. But what happened next, the burning, the looting, the killing, was not inevitable. It was a choice, made by individuals, enabled by a system. There is another layer, the criminal one. Organized looting gangs, not traumatized unemployed youth, but coordinated criminal networks have been documented driving violence during xenophobic episodes. In 2019, investigators found evidence of orchestrated attacks where foreign-owned shops were targeted with specific lists. Not random rage, organized theft wrapped in the language of justice. Criminal networks used the political cover of xenophobia to eliminate business competition and loot inventory under the protection of a crowd. The angry youth threw the stones. The criminal networks walked away with the goods. Nobody at the community meeting talked about that part. The human cost is almost impossible to measure. A Mozambican electrician who spent 12 years in Durban building a business, raising children in local schools, loses everything in one night and returns to a country he barely knows. A Somali shopkeeper who survived civil war, crossed 3 countries on foot, built a life in a Cape Town township, burned out twice. A Nigerian doctor working in a public hospital, providing care in a system desperately short of medical staff, threatened, chased, forced to flee. These are not statistics. These are the people South Africa's liberation movement once called brothers and sisters. And here is the betrayal that sits at the heart of this story. The ANC, the movement that Liberation Africa helped build, has governed South Africa for 30 years. In 30 years, it has never passed a single piece of dedicated legislation to protect foreign nationals from xenophobic violence. Not once.
The African Union has condemned the attacks. SADC has condemned the attacks. Neighboring governments, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Mozambique, have formally protested. And each time, South Africa apologizes, makes promises, sets up committees. Then the committees dissolve, the reports get filed, and the machine keeps running. What does the future look like? There are people trying to break the cycle, and they deserve to be named. Community organizations like Lawyers for Human Rights have documented attacks, provided legal protection, and pushed for accountability. Civil society groups run integration programs in townships, bringing South African and foreign nationals together in shared economic projects. A small number of local leaders have stood up in their own communities and refused the narrative at personal political cost. They are not winning yet, but they are there. The structural problem, unemployment, inequality, housing, the broken township economy cannot be solved by goodwill alone. It requires a government willing to tell its citizens an uncomfortable truth, that the foreigners did not cause your poverty, that 30 years of mismanaged delivery, state capture, and corruption did, that the anger is legitimate, but the target is wrong. No South African politician has been willing to say that clearly. Not yet. Back to that burning shop. The owner's name was Emmanuel. He was from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He had been in South Africa for 9 years. He employed 3 South Africans in his shop. After the attack, he told a journalist, "I don't hate South Africa. I still believe in it." He rebuilt. 6 months later, his shop reopened. That is the other story that never makes the news. The foreigners who stay, who rebuild, who believe in a country that has not yet decided whether it believes in them. South Africa is not defined by its worst nights, but it will be judged by whether it ever breaks the cycle that produces them. The violence will come again. It always does.